I'll send it back over to you then as we move on to LAFC versus Vancouver. What are you thinking?
It's another good matchup.
Yeah.
So home and away for LAFC, 10-4-3 at home, very strong. But again, four losses this season at home. They are beatable there. 4-6-7 on the road, not great. Vancouver, on the other hand, 8-3-6 at home. Don't lose much, but not a ton of wins at home either. And then 4-7-6 on the road. So home and away is relatively similar between the two sides. LAFC's home record's a little bit stronger, and considering they have two home games, I would say that's definitely a bit of an advantage for them. Form coming in, Vancouver hasn't lost in their last five, but then again, they really haven't won much either. They are one win, zero losses, four draws. Against some tough opponents, I'll admit. They got a good win against St. Louis, draws against LAFC, Seattle, DC, and Colorado. LAFC are two wins, one loss, two draws. So a couple more wins, one extra loss in there. But I think the important thing in the form is finding ways to win because, there's not draws in the playoffs. So you got to find ways to win. I think that, again, gives a little bit of an advantage to LAFC. Granted, their wins were against non-playoff teams, and they had a loss against RSL. And the two teams played against each other as well, uh, which they tied. But I'll get into that in a second. Going based off of your last comments, I have a feeling I know which direction you're leaning because head to head, these two teams played each other in CCL at the start of the season, and LAFC dominated them. 3-0 away win for LAFC and a 3-0 home win for LAFC. In the regular season, Vancouver did battle back though pretty well. 3-2 away win for Vancouver. And then, as mentioned, played towards the end of the season again with Vancouver at home, and it was 1-1. So, in my opinion, the signs were pointing towards LAFC, and that's the direction I've went. I think LAFC take this one 2-0, but considering the head-to-head form has definitely favored Vancouver at the end of the season, I could definitely see an argument being made for Vancouver, but I think LAFC are a bit more experienced in the playoffs. I think their home record will help them in the two home games in this series. So I think they squeak it out ahead of Vancouver.
You don't know anything about me. That's a shame. I have gone with Vancouver in this position.
Wow. Okay.
LAFC. Here is a list of LAFC goal scorers. Denny Bawanga, 20. Carlos Vela, 9. Ryan Hollingshead, 4. They're a one-man team. Carlos Vela, 9 goals, 7 assists. In his last 10 games, zilch. 0 goals, and I think he has 2 assists. He is not performing at the level recently that you would expect of them, and LA is having trouble closing out games. I now have a list of 7 games here that they have 3 wins, 2 draws, and a loss. And yes, as you mentioned, not the easiest fixture run, but this is the playoffs. You don't have easy fixtures anymore. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wins over the last 18. 5 wins over the last 18 games. It's I mean, and you can jump that 7 out of 20 if you want, right? 35% win rate. It worries me. And a lot of them were at home, dropping points at home. Which is never a great look, right? So to me, I think it is going to be a Brian White and Ryan Gauld versus Denny Bawanga just shootout. And I think Vancouver is going to find a way to do it. And really, it may just be for nothing more than the fact that MLS loves a good first round insanity run. And I think this is where you get it. So I think Vancouver wins this one over LAFC and moves on simply because they'll find a way to game plan around shutting down a Buanga and shutting down a Vela who hasn't been great over the last 10 games, And I'm also really, really long overdue for a Steve Cherundolo complaint about roster rules and spending limits. So I'm hoping we can get that sooner rather than later.
If it were as easy as stopping one man on LAFC, teams would have figured it out by now, but they haven't. So,
Well, they have, haven't they? Right? 5 wins in the last 20. They have.
I mean, Vancouver couldn't because Bouanga scored against them last game.
Sure. And now they know how to stop them.
Do they?
Listen, just because you didn't pick them this year and you picked them 2 years ago doesn't mean now you just forget about them. Remember, they're still there.
Did I pick Vancouver 2 years ago?
You picked them as like your hot take to make the playoffs.
Was I right?
Probably not. You're never right.
That's not true. I was right on San Jose this year.
You don't know anything.
Okay.
But what I do know is we need to move on.